Some lives quietly carry the story of a century. Sumiyo Fujii was born on January 18, 1917 in Montrose, Colorado, the daughter of Japanese immigrants trying to build a life in America. Her story would stretch across farms, war, immigration, discrimination, and family, touching nearly every major moment of the 20th century. Sue grew up in a farming family. Her father worked as a sharecropper, raising onions on small plots of land across Colorado. The work was hard and the family moved frequently, farming wherever they could find land. Life was simple. There was no electricity, no running water. Water was hauled in tanks and stored in a cistern. At night, homework was done by the dim glow of a coal lamp. From an early age, the children helped on the farm, weeding onions, working long summer days in the fields. But Sue's childhood was marked by tragedy. When she was in the 5th grade, her mother died. Her older sister stepped in to help raise the younger children, and the family carried on, close-knit, resilient, and determined. During Sue's teenage years, the family moved to Orem, Utah. The community was small and largely Mormon, but Sue found acceptance among her classmates. She joined school activities and became known for her public speaking and typing skills. But the Great Depression made life difficult. At one point, the family was so poor that some of the children had to stop attending school for a time. Still, Sue graduated from high school in 1935. Shortly after graduation, the family packed up and moved to California. The Fujii family settled in Boyle Heights in Los Angeles, one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the city. Sue found work at Grand Central Market. It was there she met the man who would become her husband. He worked nearby at a fish market. They dated for years, writing letters when he eventually returned to Hawaii. In 1940, he asked her to marry him. Sue boarded a ship and crossed the Pacific Ocean to start a new life. Sue arrived in Hawaii in 1940. She married and began helping run the family restaurant. But she quickly noticed cultural differences. In Hawaii's Japanese community, tradition was strong. Shoes were removed before entering homes. Guests bowed in greeting. Sue had grown up in America and suddenly found herself navigating a much more traditional world. Still, she built a life there. Her first son was born in February 1941, and then history changed everything. On the morning of December 7, 1941, Sue was awakened by the sound of planes. At first, she thought it was a military exercise, but it wasn't. Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. Suddenly, life in Hawaii changed overnight. There were curfews, blackout curtains covered the windows, gas, food, and everyday supplies became scarce. Everyone carried gas masks. And for Japanese Americans, suspicion and fear spread across the islands. Sue and her husband kept the restaurant open during the war years. Sailors and soldiers became regular customers. Food shortages forced them to get creative, sometimes waking early to search the black market for supplies. The war touched everyone. Many young Japanese American men volunteered for the 100th Infantry Battalion. Some of them were customers. They would come to say goodbye before shipping out. And sometimes, a few days later, news arrived that they had been killed. Sue believed those soldiers never received enough recognition for their sacrifice. After the war, life slowly stabilized. Sue and her husband eventually sold the restaurant. She went to work in a sewing factory. Years later, the family decided to move back to California. By then, both of her sons were grown. Returning to Los Angeles felt different this time. There was less discrimination, and most importantly, family and friends were nearby. Sue built a new chapter of her life in California. She worked in sewing factories and later passed civil service exams, eventually working as a clerk. In retirement, she became active in community organizations. She served for more than 25 years as secretary of the Monterey Park Japanese American Senior Citizens Group. She also helped support the Friends of the Little Tokyo Branch Library. Looking back across decades, Sue saw her life through a simple philosophy. A Japanese phrase she often used was shikata ga nai. It means it cannot be helped. For many Japanese Americans of her generation, it was a way of accepting hardship and continuing forward. Through war, migration, loss, and rebuilding, Sue carried that quiet resilience. When asked about her greatest accomplishments, her answer was simple: living a long life, raising a family, and staying healthy long enough to see the next generations grow. Sumiyo Fujii, 1917 to 2014. A life shaped by history, a story carried through family.